My wife suggested an open marriage over breakfast. I agreed calmly, dated her sister that night, and let silence and paperwork end everything. She said it while pouring syrup over her pancakes like it was just another Tuesday. I think we should try an open marriage just to explore. She didn't even look up like she was talking about switching from almond milk to oat. I didn't throw my coffee, didn't flip the table. I just sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, watching the syrup trail down the side of her plate like it was bleeding. And I swear, for a second, I heard my late mother's voice in my head. Don't marry a woman who believes love is a phase. I put the fork down carefully, wiped my mouth, took a breath so deep it pressed into ribs I hadn't felt since the Gulf. If that's what you want, fine. I saw her blink, the first crack in her smug veneer. But let's at least keep it honest, I added. One condition, we both go on our first date the same night. Same restaurant, separate tables. She stared, then gave that laugh, sharp and nasal, the one she used when she thought she was in control. Sure, she said, swirling her mimosa. You'll probably end up sitting alone. And that's when I knew. She didn't see me anymore. Not as a man, not as anything. Just a worn-out shadow she could drag around until she found something shiny enough to replace me. She thought I'd sulk. She thought I'd panic, beg, rage, cry. But I just nodded and finished my breakfast. She never noticed the twitch in my left hand, the same twitch I had the day I defused a live wire in Kandahar while everyone else ducked for cover. It's not anger, it's calculation. She didn't know I'd already made my move the moment I agreed. That condition, that wasn't a plea, that was a trap. And before I continue, let me just say, if you're reading this, and you're one of the 98% who watches but doesn't subscribe, do it now. Not for me, for the team behind this who pour everything into these stories. It's free, and it keeps this engine running like a damn F-16. Anyway, that afternoon she downloaded a dating app. That night, she was already taking selfies in the bathroom mirror, tugging her cheeks back like she was 30 again. And me, I went down to the basement and pulled out an old box, dusty, taped up. Inside were photo albums Monica had forgotten existed. But I hadn't, and I knew exactly what I was looking for. Not her sister Julia. Because what Monica didn't realize was that her open marriage wasn't going to be about new beginnings. It was about old sins, and I was done being the loyal fool cleaning up after her mess. By the end of that week, Monica was already rehearsing her moans. I wish I were exaggerating. She'd gotten a ring light from Amazon for better lighting, she said, and turned the guest bedroom into her own private photo shoot studio. Every night the door would clack shut behind her, and I'd hear giggles, fake gasps, and the snap of her phone camera like she was a teenager on spring break. She even bought new throw pillows, fluffy, pink, glittery ones with vibes only written across them. That was her vibe now, delusion with a splash of midlife crisis. Within 72 hours of setting up her profile, she was swiping faster than a Vegas blackjack dealer on Adderall. Some of these guys, God, one looked like a retired magician with a ponytail and tribal tattoos. Another listed his hobbies as pickleball and tantric massage. She loved that one. I think I might meet up with this one, she chirped over coffee, flipping her phone around to show me a grainy picture of a guy in aviators and a muscle shirt taken in front of a Jeep. He's a divorced entrepreneur, whatever that means. I just smiled. As long as he can spell his name right, I'm sure you'll have a blast. She didn't catch the sarcasm. She was too busy imagining her next profile pic. Meanwhile, I was in the garage, hunched over a cardboard box labeled Maz Decor/Misk, the lazy label she'd slapped on it after our last move. It was a mess of tangled lights, expired candles, and buried at the bottom, 3 photo albums wrapped in a torn Macy's bag. Not our wedding photos, not the vacations we faked being happy on. No, I was digging into her history. The one she pretended didn't exist, the one with Julia in it. There was this one photo. Thanksgiving, maybe 15 years ago, the year Julia stopped showing up. She and Monica were side by side at the table. Julia in a green cable-knit sweater. Monica wearing that dead-eyed smile she reserves for holidays and funerals. But Julia's eyes weren't on the camera, they were on me. And that letter I'd found years ago, the one Monica told me to just burn without reading. I didn't. I kept it. I never opened it. But I didn't burn it either. Not because I wanted to keep secrets, but because I had this knowing feeling that someday it would be a key to something, and that Sunday had arrived. I picked up the landline. Yes, landline. Some things still work better analog. The first call didn't go through. Number was disconnected. The second one rang 5 times before a tired voice answered. Hello. My throat dried up a little. Julia. Silence. Then Gerald. I paused. I just want to talk. Another long pause. Then she sighed. I figured you would. Eventually. That was all I needed. I booked a reservation for 2 at Monica's favorite overpriced steakhouse. Friday night, 7:00 p.m. Her idea, actually. She wanted someplace romantic, upscale, and neutral. Neutral, what a word. As Monica sat cross-legged on the couch, texting half-naked strangers and laughing at memes about starter husbands, I stared at the glowing confirmation email. Table for 2. Same night, same restaurant, different outcomes. She was chasing fantasies. I was reviving ghosts. The wine was cheap, the gossip cheaper. Monica always turned into a philosopher after 2 glasses of Merlot, the kind with teeth stains on the rim, and no concept of irony. She had Julia over that Tuesday, the way she always did when she wanted to feel morally superior to someone. Julia, quiet, cautious, younger by 4 years, but somehow older in the way she carried herself. You could see the wear behind her eyes. Like life had tried to pull a fast one, and she just let it happen without a fight. So, Gerald and I are opening things up, Monica declared, swirling her glass like she was revealing a new paint color for the guest bathroom. It's actually very European. Julia blinked. Open what up? Our marriage, Monica said with that smirk she thinks makes her look edgy, just trying something new. Julia set her glass down slowly, the base making a small, deliberate tap on the table. That's a dangerous road, Monica. Monica rolled her eyes. Oh, come on. Don't go all Midwest on me now. I spent 30 years being the good wife. Always patient, always supportive. I deserve this. Hell, he should be grateful I'm not just leaving. Julia didn't argue. She never did. That was Monica's secret weapon. Say something outrageous with enough certainty, and people get too stunned to push back. But not this time. Julia didn't sip again. She stared at her glass like it had betrayed her. You sure this isn't just about hurting him? Monica let out a laugh that didn't touch her eyes. He's fine. He agreed to it, even added this little rule about doing our first date the same night, same place. It's honestly cute in a sad, outdated kind of way. Julia didn't respond. Her lips pressed together in that way she used to when their mom used to lie straight to their faces. Monica didn't notice. She was already back on her phone, swiping through her newest matches. 3 days later, Julia's phone rang while she was folding laundry. Unknown number. She almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Hello. A pause. Then Julia, it's Gerald. She sat down slowly on the edge of the bed, the towel in her hand slipping to the floor. Hi, I just want to talk, he said. The same voice, always level, calm, no heat, no accusations. That made it worse somehow. No pressure. Julia looked down at the call timer, 0607. She whispered, I thought you might. And with that, it began. Old echoes stirred. 15 years of silence cracking under the weight of a voice she hadn't expected to hear again. Because there are some memories that never really settle. They just go underground until someone starts digging. Monica spent 2 hours deciding between the red dress with the plunging neckline and the black one with the slit that made her feel dangerous. She went with the red, of course she did. Subtlety was never her strong suit. The bedroom smelled like burnt hair and anxiety. She'd run the curling iron 3 times over the same section, muttering to herself about humidity and first impressions. She dabbed perfume behind her ears like she was preparing for battle. Hell, she even changed the bedsheets that morning just in case, like her date was coming home with her, like this wasn't still technically my house. Across the hall, I buttoned my collar in silence. No cologne, no nerves, just precision. She strutted into the hallway like she was walking a red carpet, heels clicking with fake confidence. She passed by the bathroom mirror and gave herself a once-over, then a wink. Still got it? She muttered. Then she spotted me adjusting my cuffs. Oh, look at you. Going to wear that? She asked with a half smirk. I looked up. Navy blazer, pressed shirt, polished shoes. Nothing flashy, just clean, intentional. Thought I'd try to look decent, I said. Big night. She rolled her eyes. Right. You're mystery woman. I bet she's lovely. I didn't bite, just straightened my collar and shrugged. Wouldn't dream of being late. Monica didn't ask who I was meeting. Not even a fake, disinterested probe. She didn't care. She should have. Instead, she clacked her way downstairs, purse in hand, texting her divorced entrepreneur. Some guy named Clay or Chase, or some other hollowed-out name that sounds good on a yacht rental application. His profile said he ran a consulting business, which I'm pretty sure is code for bankruptcy with a headshot. She called out, "See you there, lover," as she slid into her car. The engine started with a roar, a fitting entrance for a woman walking straight into her own trap. I gave it 10 minutes before leaving. Long enough for her to settle in, feel smug, feel bold. Long enough for the hostess to ask, "Party of two?" And for Monica to say, "Just one for now." Long enough for the front door of the steakhouse to become her stage. I tucked the envelope into my coat pocket. Not the letter, not yet. Something newer, something she'd recognize later. A photocopy of a reservation. My name, Julia's name, 2 seats. 7:00 p.m. When I pulled into the parking lot, I didn't even feel the usual pit in my stomach. No second guessing, no guilt, just a cool hum in my chest, like everything was finally aligning. Monica wanted freedom, but freedom without consequence is just chaos with lipstick, and tonight she was about to meet the consequence in heels. Monica walked into the steakhouse like she owned the place. Head high, shoulders back, red dress hugging every curve. She'd paid a trainer to restore her body. She gave a tight smile to the valet, flashed a little more leg than necessary as she stepped inside, and let the host stand awkwardly waiting while she checked her lipstick in the mirror. The place was classic old money charm, dark wood, white tablecloths, low jazz humming in the background. She liked that it felt expensive, romantic, the kind of place where people got proposed to or dumped in style. She checked her phone. No message from Chase. Of course. Still, Monica didn't care. She wasn't here for Chase, not really. She was here to win, to walk in, see Gerald wilted in his seat alone, and feel the warm, delicious burn of superiority. She even rehearsed a few lines in her head in case he looked particularly pathetic. "Rough night, dear. Don't wait up. Table for one. How sad." And then she saw him far into the room, seated near the window where the light hit just enough to catch the gray in his beard. Clean, upright. Like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. No fidgeting, no scrolling, no drinking hand. Just waiting for what? Monica smirked. He really showed up alone. It was better than she'd hoped. She might even offer to let him come home with her if she struck out with Chase. Out of pity, of course, as a gesture of maturity. She started to approach her own table when the host reappeared. "Right this way, ma'am." Monica turned, half expecting to see a stranger behind her. But the woman wasn't talking to her. She was leading someone else. Someone walking with a slow, steady grace. Julia. Monica's breath caught. It took her brain a full 3 seconds to believe her eyes. Because Julia was supposed to be out of town, out of state. Julia hadn't set foot in this city for over a decade. Not since that Thanksgiving where everything went quiet and weird, and then she vanished from Monica's life like a vapor trail. But now here she was wearing that same forest green sweater Monica used to tease her about. Hair pulled back, lips pressed in a straight, unreadable line. Her eyes scanned the room and then landed on Gerald. She smiled. A real smile, the kind Monica hadn't seen from her in years. The hostess guided her gently. "Mr. Bennett is waiting right over here." Gerald stood up, pulled out Julia's chair. Monica stood frozen near the bar, one hand still holding her phone, the other clutching her purse, strapped so tightly her knuckles blanched. Julia sat. Gerald said something. She laughed, light and low. And Monica, she backed away 2 steps, like she just stumbled into a funeral she wasn't invited to. Her table sat untouched. Chase still hadn't texted. And across the room, her husband and her sister were leaning in, heads close, like there was nothing in the world outside that mattered. It was only then Monica realized she didn't know what they were talking about. And worse, she didn't know what they knew. 15 years is a long time to pretend something didn't happen. But as Monica stood there, heels anchored to the marble like she'd stepped in wet cement, her mind cracked open like a dropped bottle of wine. And the past began leaking out. Julia had vanished that winter. Said she'd taken a job in St. Paul, something with a non-profit that helped veterans. Monica had sold it with a smile and a practiced tone. "She needs a fresh start, you know how she is." Most people nodded. Gerald didn't. He remembered days leading up to it too well. Thanksgiving that year had been tense from the jump. Julia showed up 2 hours early and barely touched her food. Gerald remembered her walking into the kitchen while he basted the turkey, biting her lips so hard it left a mark. She wanted to talk about something. He could see it in the way she hovered. Then Monica walked in. "What's going on?" she'd asked, her tone sugary and sharp at the same time. Julia froze. Whatever was about to be said got locked behind her teeth. She shook her head and muttered something about needing more wine. Later that night, Gerald found Monica in the study burning something in the fireplace. She said it was just old bills. He believed her back then. But a week after Julia left town, Gerald found an envelope behind the radiator in the guest room, torn, unopened, addressed to Gerald Bennett in Julia's unmistakable handwriting. No stamped, just his name. He never read it. He couldn't, because by then Monica had cried, told him Julia was unstable, that she had feelings for him, that she was creating tension in the family, inventing things, that the letter would just be more of the same. "Let it go," she said. "It's better for all of us." So he kept it, tucked it into an old tool chest, telling himself it didn't matter. But now, watching Julia sip wine across from him, smiling like a woman who'd finally exhaled after holding her breath for a decade, he realized how deeply it did. Julia wasn't awkward. She wasn't hesitant. She looked comfortable, familiar, like they'd been here before. And Monica could see it from across the room. She could see it in the way Gerald leaned forward, not as a man trying to impress, but as someone reconnecting with an equal. She could see it in Julia's eyes, bright, alert, scanning his face like she was measuring time lost. It hit Monica like a slap. Julia hadn't just left because of some job. She'd left because of her, because she made her. And now here they were, across white linen and candlelight, like time had folded neatly in half and placed them together again. Monica stumbled toward the bathroom, the room tilting slightly with every step. Her palms were cold. Her chest felt tight, not with jealousy. No, this wasn't about attraction. This was something worse. This was about control. And for the first time in 20 years, Monica realized she might not have it anymore. Julia caught her eye, right as the waiter poured wine into Gerald's glass. Julia looked up directly at Monica. No gasp, no guilt, just a slight knowing smile, calm, unbothered, surgical. Monica froze in the doorway of the women's restroom, her hands still on the brushed brass handle. The clink of cutlery and the soft hum of conversation around her faded into a dull roar in her ears. Julia didn't look away. Instead, she leaned in and said something to Gerald. He smiled, chuckled, even a real laugh. One of those low, deep ones Monica hadn't heard from him in years. She felt it in her bones like a betrayal deeper than infidelity. Because it wasn't just that Julia was there, it was how she was there. Comfortable, poised, like she belonged. Monica's knees buckled slightly, but she managed to keep walking past the bar, past the hostess stand, out into the night air, where the cold hit her like a slap. She stood on the sidewalk, fists clenched around her phone, staring at her reflection in the darkened window. Red dress, flawless makeup, the image of composure, but her mascara was already starting to crack at the corners. She called straight to voicemail. She called again. No answer. Her thumbs shook as she opened her messages. "Monica, what are you doing?" She stared at the screen, heart racing, lips pressed so tight they hurt. 3 dots appeared, typing. Then it stopped, started again, and finally, Julia, returning a favor you never asked for. Monica stared at the words like they were in a foreign language. Returning a favor? What favor? What favor? Another message came through, but Monica dropped the phone before she could read it. It hit the pavement, bouncing once before landing screen up. The cracked glass made the words harder to read, but they were there. "Julia, you told me to disappear, remember? I'm just giving you what you wanted." A rush of heat bloomed behind Monica's eyes. Her stomach turned. Her mouth went dry. She bent down, picked up the phone, and looked back toward the restaurant windows. She couldn't see them from the sidewalk, only her reflection. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't recognize it. The woman in the glass looked scared, cornered, because deep down, beneath all the makeup and bravado, Monica knew exactly what Julia meant. She remembered the last fight, the tears, the pleading, the final cruel words she spat like venom just to end the conversation. "You're ruining everything. If you care about me at all, you'll just go." And Julia had, until now. Monica banged on the door like it owed her money. 3 sharp pounds, the kind that announce war, not conversation. The hallway smelled like old carpet and lavender cleaner. It felt smaller than she remembered. Julia's building always had that starter apartment energy. Monica hadn't set foot there in over a decade. Not since the night she'd stood in this very hallway and told her sister to go. Now the door creaked open. Julia stood in yoga pants, an oversized sweatshirt, barefoot, holding a coffee mug that said, "Not today, Satan." Her eyes were clear. No puffiness, no shame, just a level, almost bored expression. "Wow," she said, sipping her coffee. "That was fast. Couldn't sleep?" Monica pushed her way in without permission. "You think this is funny?" she hissed. "You ambushed me. You sat there at dinner like I was invited. Julia cut in. I was. Monica whirled around. You don't get to act innocent. You don't get to just waltz back into our lives and then act like everything is normal. Julia raised a brow. Funny, I didn't see you sitting with Gerald last night. That shut Monica up for a second. She looked around the apartment, still minimalist. Same throw blanket on the couch from years ago. Same framed art of trees and rivers like Julia had designed her life to be quiet. You're trying to steal him, Monica said, her voice cracking. After all these years, you... Julia's voice wasn't angry. It was soft. That made it worse. You don't get to act shocked. You told me to disappear, remember? Monica's mouth moved, but no words came out. You chose him over me, Julia continued. And not because we were having some affair. Not because anything even happened, but because you saw something you didn't like. A glance, a vibe, a possibility, and that was enough. Monica sank onto the armrest, her knees finally giving. I was scared, she whispered. You were always easier to love. People liked you. He liked talking to you. And I panicked. Julia knelt in front of her, coffee still in hand. Her voice never rose. And now, she said, it's your turn to be scared. Monica looked up, tears starting to gather behind her lashes. Nothing even happened, she said again, like saying it out loud would rewind the clock. Julia stood up. Exactly. And you still ruined it. She walked to the window and opened it. The morning light poured in, soft and golden. Birds chirped. Somewhere down the street, a bus hissed to a stop. You took everything from me, Monica. My home, my family, my peace. And all because you couldn't stomach the idea that someone might love me too. She turned back. But the thing about fear, it spreads. And now it's in you. Monica sat frozen, not angry, not triumphant, just hollow, because Julia wasn't threatening her. She was just telling the truth. The table was set for 3. Cloth napkins, real silverware, and Gerald's quiet precision in every corner. The candles weren't lit for romance. They were lit like sentinels. No jazz, no music, just the hum of the old fridge and the ticking wall clock he'd kept since 1989. Monica walked in first. Her heels made sharp taps on the tile like a warning shot. She came armed, tight blouse, tighter smile, and a layer of lipstick thick enough to hide her tension. She expected fireworks, a shouting match, maybe even tears. Julia arrived 10 minutes later in jeans and a loose cardigan, carrying a bottle of red like she was showing up for a potluck, not a confrontation. Gerald greeted both with the same measured nod. Not warm, not cold, just still. They sat. The silence stretched so taut it practically hummed. He poured 3 glasses of wine, didn't toast, just drank. Monica waited for the trap, the explosion, the speech. Instead, Gerald looked at her and said flatly, I agreed to your terms, Monica. She blinked. Excuse me? You wanted an open marriage, he said. And I gave you that, word for word, night for night, table for table. Julia stayed quiet, eyes down, sipping. She'd heard this already. But you didn't think about how deep betrayal cuts when it comes from family, he continued. Monica scoffed. Betrayal? You invited her. He held up a hand, not angry, commanding, like he was back in uniform, briefing a room. You told me this was about honesty, about freedom, about being open. But you never wanted equality. You wanted license. And when you got it, you didn't care who got crushed underneath. He turned to Julia. I'm not playing games, he said. Not with you. Not anymore. I'm ready to live honestly if you are. Julia's hand curled slightly around her glass. She didn't smile, but her eyes softened. Gerald leaned back and looked at Monica. You wanted freedom, he said. You've got it. He stood, pulled a folded sheet of paper from his back pocket and placed it gently on the table. But don't expect the house. Don't expect the pension, and don't expect me. Monica stared at the paper like it was a loaded weapon. Her mouth opened, then closed. This isn't how marriage works, she muttered. You don't just... You rewrote the rules, Monica, he said. I just learned to read them better. Julia looked at her sister. For the first time since entering the house. No rage, just clarity. You always assumed love was a spotlight, Gerald said quietly. Only room for one, but it's not. It's a mirror, and you've been too afraid to look in it. He walked into the kitchen. The sound of the wine bottle being recorked was the final note in the air. No one moved. Monica sat motionless. Her lip trembled, but she held it in. And Julia, she finished her wine, set the glass down, and waited. Because now the checkmate was real, not with shouting, not with accusations, but with quiet, deliberate choices and silence that said more than any scream ever could. The lawyer's office smelled like cheap air freshener and judgment. Gerald sat across from her, calm, hands folded on the table like he was at a routine dental checkup, suit neatly pressed, wedding ring long gone, no eye contact. Monica, on the other hand, was unraveling beneath a thick coat of foundation and forced poise. Her blouse was crisp, her heels loud, but her fingers wouldn't stop twitching. She was trying to channel power, but the room didn't care. Julia was already seated beside Gerald, legal pad in front of her, reading glasses perched halfway down her nose. Cool as ever. She didn't speak unless spoken to, but her presence said everything. You're not in control anymore. The attorney, a polite man with a voice like warm tofu, cleared his throat and pushed a folder toward Monica. Inside, a series of documents: property transfer, power of attorney, asset allocation, trust agreement. Her name was there, but not in the way she expected, not as beneficiary, not as partner, as past tense. She flipped through with growing alarm. This, she stammered. This trust has the house in it. Gerald nodded. Correct. And the savings. The lake property, even... She held up a sheet, blinking. Even your pension. Yep, he said flatly. All of it. Moved into a trust. She turned to the lawyer. He can't just do this. I'm still his wife. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. Actually, per the terms outlined in the separation agreement, which you both signed in principle 2 weeks ago, Mr. Bennett is well within his rights to protect his personal assets via trust allocation. Monica's voice cracked. Who's the trustee? Gerald didn't answer. Julia did. I am. Monica stared at her, like she'd been stabbed with a butter knife. You can't. This is insane. This is... Julia reached into her purse, pulled out a pen, clicked it, slid it across the table. You did it to yourself. Monica looked down at the pen. She could see her own reflection in the glossy barrel, mascara smudged, lipstick fading. She glanced up at Gerald, hoping desperately for something human. Regret, sadness, even pity. Nothing. He stood smooth, unhurried. I hope your date was worth it, he said, tucking the papers back into the folder. She didn't respond, couldn't, because in that moment she realized the truth. She had gambled with someone who didn't bluff, and she'd lost badly. As the door clicked shut behind him, she was left alone at the table, pen in hand, papers in front of her. The room didn't smell like judgment anymore. It smelled like finality.